Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipak Shikurana, coming up in the next hour. Assassination attempt on Donald Trump looms over the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Trump walks in with a thick bandage over the ear as the crowd chants, "Fight, fight, fight." Formally wins Republican presidential nomination. Trump picks 39-year-old Ohio Senator J.D. Vance to be his vice presidential running mate. Vance and his wife Usha given a rousing welcome at the convention. Biden says he made a mistake when he told supporters to put rival Donald Trump in a bull's eye. Republicans accuse Biden of creating a climate that sparked the assassination attempt. Israel allows UN to bring more armored vehicles, protection gear for its humanitarian aid operations in the Gaza Strip. The first plenary session of the new European Parliament set to begin on Tuesday. EU members to decide upon Parliament's leadership and vote on who will run the European Commission for the next 5 years. And on to the details now. The 4-day-long Republican convention opened in Milwaukee on Monday. The Republican Party formally nominated former President Donald Trump as the GOP's standard-bearer for the November 5th general election on the day one. GOP delegates crowned Trump as the presidential nominee for a third time in a roll call vote as the Republican Party convention kicked off its 4-day run in Milwaukee in the battleground state of Wisconsin. Monday's nomination procedure was a formality as Trump had already been the presumptive presidential nominee since March when his delegate haul reached 1,215, a majority of the total 2,429 delegates. And Donald Trump officially named Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate in the U.S. presidential election at the start of the party's national convention in Milwaukee. The news, first announced on Trump's Truth social media website, comes 2 days after Trump survived an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania campaign rally. Vance was named Trump's running mate hours after the former president secured a major legal victory when a federal judge dismissed one of Trump's criminal prosecutions. Vance was a one-time harsh critic, but later became one of Trump's most loyal supporters in Congress. Trump is due to formally accept the party's nomination in a primetime speech on Thursday and will challenge Democratic President Joe Biden in the 5th of November election.
That means be quiet.
And for more, we have Nick Harper joining us from there. Well, Nick, 2 days after an attempt on his life, Trump appeared at the convention greeted by an excited crowd with chants of fight. Reference to his words after surviving the rally shooting. What was the rhetoric like? And do you see Trump benefiting from the assassination bid there?
Yeah, this was quite an incredible moment. As you mentioned, just 2 days after surviving that assassination attempt, he made that glorious appearance at the Republican National Convention, a moment when the whole of the hall, the thousands of Republicans who were gathered there, went absolutely wild. We saw a standing ovation, a rapturous applause as Donald Trump slowly entered the room with his fist raised and walked towards the upper podium where he was greeted by his VIP guests. We didn't get a speech from Donald Trump this evening, but just appearing with that bandage on his right ear where the bullet struck really was a major moment for his campaign, but also for many people in the room. The television cameras picked up a number of people within the room in tears, clearly very emotional about that moment. We'd had speeches throughout the day, and once Donald Trump, they continued for some time after that, speeches whereby the speakers were speaking with gratitude that Donald Trump had survived that attempted assassination. And I think this really has helped to catapult his campaign, to give it new momentum. It seems quite incredible, but it has created this real feeling of unity in the party. We already knew that Donald Trump had huge support within the Republican ranks, but here we've seen them coalesce around him in a major way as a result of what happened in Pennsylvania at that rally on Saturday. It was a huge moment for Donald Trump. No words from him. He'll give his headline speech on Thursday, but just being there in the room, I think, electrified many of the crowd and probably Republican voters at home as well, watching.
All right. Also, Nick, talking about his vice presidential running mate, Vance, a venture capitalist and the author, has adopted Trump's populist agenda after years of pointed criticism of Never Trump movement. Do you see his nomination helping Trump?
Yeah, I think it certainly will. J.D. Vance is a very interesting character. In the past, he said that anyone voting for Trump was basically an idiot. He even called Trump America's Hitler. He was a staunch critic of him, and now there he is as his running mate. I think giving much to the campaign that Donald Trump was clearly looking for someone of a youthful appearance, but also with that youth vote on his side. He's only 39 years old. He's only been a senator for 2 years, but he brings with him that youth, even if he doesn't bring with him experience. Donald Trump clearly showing that this is the type of person he wants to hand the mantle of responsibility over, to be the face, the next generation of the Republican Party. It's interesting to note as well, he is married to a woman whose parents are of Indian descent. And I think in that respect, there is a nod to the fact Donald Trump knows he struggles with some minority groups across America. This might help him to cement some voters who are on the fence, who perhaps might look at him with renewed light, being able to see potentially diversity within the Trump party. However, Democrats have lambasted this choice of J.D. Vance as the vice presidential pick. We heard from Biden's campaign earlier calling Vance a far-right MAGA extremist. I mean, he certainly has views on the right of Donald Trump. They also say that Vance is a 2020 election denier. He supports a national abortion ban and voted against IVF access. Democrats trying to capitalize on this and say to their voters this is someone that should not be running the country, and trying to turn it back towards them, urging voters to vote for them off the back of that pick by Donald Trump for his vice president.
All right. Also, meanwhile, if you talk about President Biden, how he defended himself in an interview against criticisms over his rhetoric about Trump, and said it was a mistake to say it was time to put Trump in a bull's eye. What do you have to say about Biden's softening stance now?
Yeah, a tricky moment for Joe Biden and his campaign, because there was a comment from him a couple of months ago in which he said Donald Trump should be put in a bullseye. Off the back of that attempted assassination, Republicans pointed to that comment and other language from the Democrats, saying it was the Democrats' fault that Trump was targeted at the rally. Joe Biden had to defend himself during that interview. He tried to explain it by saying he didn't mean a bullseye as in crosshairs or a target, but rather it all being about making Donald Trump the focus of everything that Democrats now do, focusing in on his policies and his past comments. But it is rather tricky for the Democrats to walk that fine line of continuing to campaign and to go after Donald Trump, but knowing that their every move, their every word will be under scrutiny, because there is that renewed pressure on rhetoric in terms of political discourse at this time, and in really trying to hone in on every single word that the president might utter after that attempted assassination. Bear in mind that that interview originally was scheduled to try and reassure Democrat voters that he still had what it takes for this re-election bid, after all the fears within the Democratic Party that perhaps he's just too old. It ended up being an interview about other things. He spoke about his age, saying that he still had good mental acuity, but he also now had to defend himself off the back of that attempted assassination, because there is that focus now on what Democrats are saying and whether there's any language that could be inflammatory or could be inciting violence.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick, for all that update from there. And moving on, 8 years ago, in the lead-up to the 2016 presidential election, J.D. Vance was a bitter critic of Donald Trump. Now he's Trump's running mate for the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Here is all you need to know about J.D. Vance, including his Indian connection.
Vance grew up in humble surroundings in Middletown, Ohio. After completing high school, he enlisted with the U.S. Marines, where he served in the Iraq War as a combat journalist and a public relations officer. Later, he graduated from Yale in 2013. He practiced law for a brief while before moving to San Francisco to work in the tech industry as a venture capitalist. Vance was born to a mother who struggled with addiction and a father who left the family when Vance was a toddler. He was raised by his grandparents, whom he sympathetically portrayed in his 2016 memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. Vance painted an honest portrait of the trials, travails, and bad decisions of his family members and friends. Hillbilly Elegy made him not only into a best-selling author, but a sought-after commentator who was frequently called upon to explain Donald Trump's appeal to white, working-class voters. In 2017, Vance returned to Ohio and continued to work in venture capital. He and his Indian-origin wife, Usha Chilukuri Vance, whom he met at Yale, have 3 children. Vance's name was long whispered about as a political candidate, and he saw an opportunity when Ohio's Republican Senator Rob Portman decided not to run for re-election in 2022. In the process, Vance has become an increasingly important player in the world of Make America Great Again politics and has signed up almost completely to Trump's agenda. In the Senate, he has been a reliable conservative vote, backing populist economic policies and emerging as one of the biggest congressional skeptics of aid to Ukraine. Vance also sponsored legislation in March that would cut the Chinese government off from U.S. capital markets if it does not follow international trade law. Vance has expressed support in the past for a nationwide abortion after 15 weeks, but he recently backed Trump's view that the matter was for states to decide. Vance received waves of loud applause when he entered the convention arena in Milwaukee on Monday. He walked over to the Ohio contingent and, looking somewhat in awe of the scene, took selfies with delegates as he was being introduced. Vance was also one of the first top Republicans to point the finger at Democrat campaign rhetoric in the wake of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump at a rally on Saturday. In comments on Monday, President Biden called Vance a clone of Trump, indicating how Democrats will attempt to portray him for the rest of the campaign.
And Usha Chilukuri Vance, the wife of J.D. Vance, whom Donald Trump declared as his running mate in the upcoming U.S. presidential elections on Monday, brings a wealth of credentials and a deep connection to Indian values and culture. Take a look.
Daughter of Indian immigrants, Usha Chilukuri grew up in a San Diego suburb. She moved from Yale to a Gates Fellowship at Cambridge. As of 2014, she was a registered Democrat. Usha was like my Yale spirit guide, Vance praises. Vance praised his wife in his best-selling book, Hillbilly Elegy. Usha played a quiet but significant role in her husband's rise. She helped Vance organize his ideas about social decline in rural white America. It formed the basis of his breakout memoir. Usha and Vance met at Yale Law School. Pair were married in Kentucky in 2014. Both were blessed by a Hindu Pandit in a separate ceremony. Pair have 3 children, Ivan, Vivek and Mirabel. Usha works as a litigator in San Francisco and Washington, D.C. She made rare appearances with Vance as he sought the Ohio Senate seat. In a TV interview, Usha Vance sounded a note of ambivalence about the prospect of her husband, who's running for the second highest office in the country. In a TV interview, Usha Vance sounded a note of ambivalence about the prospect of her husband, who's running for the second highest office in the country.
Well, U.S. President Joe Biden has defended his language in the lead-up to the recent assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. In an interview to U.S. News Channel, Biden admitted that his bullseye comment about Trump was a mistake. The U.S. president said he meant Democrats needed to focus more on Trump, his policies, and the false statements he made during the presidential debate late last month.
was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing. Focus on his policies. Focus on the number of lies he told in the debate. Focus. I mean, there's a whole range of things that, look, I'm not the guy that said I want to be a dictator on day one. I'm not the guy that refused to accept the outcome of the election. I'm not the guy who said that wouldn't accept the outcome of this election automatically. You can't only love your country when you win. How do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I have not engaged in that rhetoric.
While asking about the Republicans' vice presidential candidate Vance, Biden said that it's unsurprising that Trump would surround himself with people who agree completely with him.
It's not unusual. He's going to surround himself with people who agree completely with him. Have a voting record. I support him. Even though if you go back and listen to the things that J.D. Vance said about Trump.
Well, the specific reference to Trump in a bullseye less than a week before has led some Republicans to accuse Biden of inciting the attack. A group of Republican lawmakers have accused U.S. President Joe Biden of inciting the assassination attempt against his presidential race competitor and predecessor, Donald Trump. The Republicans have claimed that Biden's campaign rhetoric led to the attack against their leader. And the White House said on Monday that it does not yet know the motivation of the gunmen who attempted to assassinate former President Donald Trump. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre held a briefing on the attempted assassination of President Trump. She was joined by Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Mayorkas announced that an independent review into the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump will begin in a matter of days.
At President Biden's direction, an independent review of the incident will be conducted, one that will examine the Secret Services and other law enforcement actions before, during, and after the shooting.
Well, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said during the press briefing that the U.S. Secret Service will provide an appropriate level of security to Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, as well as to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's running as an independent candidate in the 2024 presidential election.
In light of this weekend's events, the President has directed me to work with the Secret Service to provide protection to Robert Kennedy Jr. The United States Secret Service, when a selection is made, will provide the appropriate level of security. Adjustments have been made to the former president's detail, to the current president's detail, as well as to the vice president's detail.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. The three-day 10th Pacific Islands Leaders Meeting Palm 10 to be held in Japan. Stay with us for the latest on Rwanda politics as Rwandan President Paul Kagame wins the presidential election with 99% of the vote. And 1.7 trillion cubic feet natural gas reserve discovered in north of the country's capital, La Paz, making it the biggest discovery since 2005.
As the world gears up for the biggest sporting extravaganza, Olympics 2024, we at DD India are all set to bring you reports, reactions, and all the latest action from Ground Zero. Watch DD India's super exclusive show, Cheer for India, only on DD India from July the 18th at 4 p.m. IST, 10:30 a.m. GMT, Monday to Friday. Get ready to cheer for Indian athletes at the Paris Olympics 2024.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, the European Union's newest lawmakers will be taking their seats in Parliament this week following the last European elections. It marks the start of a 5-year term for the divided Parliament. DD India correspondent Alex Cardia reports for more from Brussels.
Well, the European Parliament will be sitting for the first time since those recent elections. 720 members of the European Parliament taking their seats, new MEPs, of course, including a surge of far-right parties, 84 of them forming the third largest group in the European Parliament, including Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally, the Brothers of Italy of Giorgia Meloni in Italy, as well as the Fidesz party in Hungary for Viktor Orban, those big grouping of far-right parties. But even further right of them is a smaller group, about 25 MEPs who are anti-support for Ukraine, anti-vaccination, anti-feminism, anti-Green Deal, anti-woke, and they will be making a lot of noise as well. What this will mean for the next 5 years is that this parliament will be one of the most confrontational, fractious, divided the European Union has seen for a long time. That will come up on issues like climate change, on sustainability, on environmental laws, on farming laws. It'll come up when it comes to support for Ukraine, when it comes to feminism issues, social issues. These will all be very contentious and very difficult issues for the European Parliament. But the first order of business, of course, is to elect a president of the European Parliament. That seems done deal already. Roberta Metsola, the Maltese current president of the European Parliament, will stay on as the president of the European Parliament. We know the left group is putting a symbolic candidate to stand against her, but it seems all but a done deal. That will be step one. Then there will be debates about Ukraine, about climate change, about other major issues. Before, in the next couple of days, particularly on Thursday, the Parliament crucially votes on who will be the president in that building behind me, the European Commission. Of course, it is expected to be Ursula von der Leyen, but we could still see some surprises in the coming days. So here in Brussels, certainly all eyes on that European Parliament. Alex Cadye in Brussels reporting for DD India.
And European Union imposed sanctions on 5 Israeli individuals and 3 entities on Monday. The Council approved the sanctions under the European Union's global human rights sanctions regime. It said that it was responsible for serious and systematic human rights abuses against Palestinians in the West Bank. The list included Zav9, a group which EU said had regularly blocked humanitarian aid trucks. The list also included Israeli politician Baruch Marzel, Ben-Zion Gopstian, founder of the Lehava organization, and Issachar Maneh, whom the EU describes as the founder of the unauthorized outpost. Both Gopstian and Maneh have also been sanctioned by the US. And the 10th Pacific Islands Leaders Meeting, Palm 10, is being held in Japan. Representatives from the 18 Pacific Islands Forum members in Japan are attending the 3-day meeting. Climate change, fisheries and commitments to support development from the host nation will be among the Pacific Island nations' interest, along with concerns about the release of treated wastewater from the disabled Fukushima nuclear plant. The summit is the premier caucus that will map out and define relations between the Pacific Island countries and Japan for the following 3-year cycle. DD India's Chris Gilbert has more input from Tokyo on this.
The broad brushstrokes already, and one of the most important ones is, of course, since they last met, Japan has begun discharging treated nuclear wastewater into the Pacific. It began this in batches last August. And between these Palm meetings, there have been lots of talks between Japan and the PIF, the Pacific Island Forum, because, representatives, including the Prime Minister, have often traveled to Fiji and other parts of the Pacific to try and get the Pacific Island Forum on board with this project, which many countries inside the PIF have been opposed to. Now, according to a draft declaration from Palm 10, it does seem as though they are collectively not welcoming, but encouraging Japan, to continue the transparency it's done with the nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, in terms of the non-effects, according to Japan, of any effects on the marine environment and human health. There are other, issues on the agenda. They're going to be looking at peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific, freedom and democracy, sustainable development. Climate change is an absolutely, huge issue for the Pacific Islands, which are, probably the most directly impacted, nation states in the world by climate change and rising sea levels. Economic cooperation and cybersecurity. So as always with these three-day summits, it's an enormous raft of issues, but the elephant in the room here is the competing influences of the US Western Bloc and the Chinese Bloc in the Indo-Pacific. Both, Japan and American allies and China are working with Pacific Islanders to try and gain influence over these nations. Is a big reason behind it. $380 million of aid, development aid, which Japan is looking to provide the PIF at the conclusion of this three-day summit.
Well, North Korea warned on Tuesday that South Korea will face devastating consequences for dropping anti-Pyongyang leaflets over North Korea. Kim Yo-jong, a North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un's sister, said that at least 29 large balloons carrying anti-Pyongyang leaflets from South Korea were found around North Korea, prompting a blockade in the areas and causing inconvenience to the residents. Tension flared last month after North Korea sent thousands of balloons containing trash to the south in protest against a campaign by North Korean defectors and activists in the south who have for years flown aid parcels and leaflets criticizing the Kim regime across the heavily fortified border. Well, the Pakistan government has decided to ban the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party led by imprisoned former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The government has alleged that the party has been involved in activities deemed detrimental to the state. Information Minister Atiullah Tarar announced it on Monday, asserting that the federal government has collected enough evidence to justify the proposed ban. The government will also file a legal reference against Khan and former President Arif Alvi for treason charges under the country's constitution before the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, Imran Khan's aide Zulfikar Bukhari said the decision to ban Khan's political party and move the country's top court to press treason charges against him demonstrated that there is an undeclared martial law in Pakistan. And Rwandan President Paul Kagame has won the country's presidential election with 99% of the vote. According to preliminary election results released late on Monday evening, Kagame had won 99% of the 79% of ballots counted so far. 8 candidates had applied to run against Kagame, but only 2 were retained in the final list validated by the Electoral Commission. The others, including Kagame's most vocal critics, were barred for various reasons that included prior criminal convictions. The president, who has been in power in various roles since 1994, won by a similar amount in 2017. And Bolivian President Luis Arce announced the discovery of a 1.7 trillion cubic feet natural gas reserve located north of the country's administrative capital, La Paz. The reserve is expected to enhance the country's natural gas production capabilities, providing a potential boost to both domestic energy supply and export opportunities. This discovery could play a crucial role in bolstering Bolivia's energy sector and economy. This finding underscores Bolivia's potential as a key player in the regional energy market, given the country's existing infrastructure and experience in natural gas production and export. And Armenia and the United States will hold joint military exercises in Armenia that are expected to last until 24th of July. The Eagle Partner 2024 exercise will focus on tasks related to peacekeeping missions, and such drills with partner countries are regular. Armenia has also seen its ties with Moscow Tsar in recent years over what Yerevan sees as Russia's failure to defend it from neighboring Azerbaijan. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Galzulin said that by cooperating with NATO, Armenia risks destabilizing the South Caucasus and is undermining its own security. Galzulin said Moscow was unhappy with the fact that Yerevan had taken part in the NATO summit in Washington. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world today. A soldier was stabbed and wounded by a man armed with a knife at a railway station in Paris days before the French capital hosts the Summer Olympic Games. France is on its highest state of alert. The soldier was deployed with an operational sentinel. Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin said on X that the assailant had been arrested and the soldier's wounds were not life-threatening. Performing with a live band gave South Korean girl group NMIXX brought their mixed pop sound to the Hyde Park Festival in London. The main stage performance marked the first for the K-pop performers. NMIXX made their debut in early 2022 and have since released 2 extended play records, 3 single albums and toured across Asia and the United States.
Hi guys, we are
And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's External Affairs Minister to embark on 2-day official visit to Mauritius. Armed forces put up a brave fight against terrorists in Doordarshan region in J&K. Encounter continues. And the Finance Ministry is all set to hold the traditional Halwa ceremony at North Block ahead of the presentation of Union Budget 2024.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You are watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuran and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Assassination attempt on Donald Trump looms over the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Trump walks in with a thick bandage over the ear as the crowd chants "Fight, fight, fight," formally wins Republican presidential nomination. Trump picks 39-year-old Ohio Senator J.D. Vance to be his vice presidential running mate. Vance and his wife Usha are given a rousing welcome at the convention. Biden says he made a mistake when he told supporters to put rival Donald Trump in a bull's eye. Republicans accuse Biden of creating a climate that sparked the assassination attempt. Israel allows UN to bring more armored vehicles, protection gear for its humanitarian aid operations in the Gaza Strip. The first plenary session of the new European Parliament set to begin on Tuesday. EU members to decide upon Parliament's leadership and vote on who will run the European Commission for the next 5 years. And moving on, the External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, will undertake an official visit to Mauritius from 16th to 17th of July 2024. The visit will mark one of the first bilateral engagements undertaken by him following his reappointment. And India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal arrived in Reggio Calabria to participate in the outreach session of the G7 Trade Ministers meeting hosted by Italy. During this visit, the Indian Commerce and Industry Minister will also engage in bilateral meetings with the trade ministers of G7 countries and other participating nations in the outreach session, reinforcing India's commitment to global trade and investment partnerships. Well, with an aim to review of the entire gamut of India-Germany bilateral relations, Foreign Office consultations co-chaired by India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri and Thomas Bagger, State Secretary of German Foreign Office, were held on Monday in New Delhi. During the meet, both sides undertook a comprehensive review of ties encompassing key areas of bilateral cooperation. They agreed to further deepen and diversify bilateral ties in key areas of contemporary relevance. The co-chairs also held in-depth discussions and exchanged perspectives on key issues of regional and global importance. The discussions provided an opportunity for both sides to take stock of the current status of bilateral relations and explore avenues for further deepening the India-Germany strategic partnership. And the search operation in the forest area of North India's Doda district is underway by the security forces following credible intelligence about the presence of terrorists. The operation began early this morning with security personnel moving cautiously through the dense forest. As the forces neared the suspected hiding spot of the terrorists, they came under heavy fire. A brief but intense encounter ensued. In response to the incident, a massive search operation is currently underway. And India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh took cognizance of the ongoing operation in Doda, taking to ex-Defence Ministry said, and I quote, Raksha Mantri spoke to Chief of Army Staff General Upendra Dwivedi this morning. RM was apprised of the ground situation and the ongoing counter-terrorist op in Doda by the Army Chief, unquote. And Russian soldiers will now wear shoes made in western state of Bihar's Hajipur, giving a boost to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Make in India campaign. The shoes can withstand temperatures of minus 40 degrees. Last year, the company exported 1.5 million pair worth crores. It is expected to increase by 50% this year. As per the company's official, their goods have also reached the European market. This shows India's hold is getting stronger in the foreign market. And India's financial capital, Mumbai, braces for the monsoon season. Heavy rainfall that lashed the city on Monday led the Indian Meteorological Department to sound an orange alert in Mumbai for Tuesday too. While the showers led to traffic snarls and waterlogging in Mumbai, the stock index, the 7 lakes supplying water to the city, surpassed last year's marks in the highest one-day jump. And for more, we have Yogesh Sheetal joining us from Mumbai on this. Well, Yogesh, what's the latest on the monsoon front as an orange alert is still sounded by IMD? How is the situation there?
See, coming to city, particularly in Mumbai, a lot of things have already been completed by the different agencies, including BMC, in the view of expected situation in monsoon. Particularly, we used to witness the situation. Traffic has been diverted on low-lying area, particularly like Andheri subway, Kurla, Chuna Bhatti. These are the areas where traffic have been diverted. Apart from that, agencies are also on their toes to ensure that there is no convenience caused to the people. One important thing on Konkan line, particularly Konkan railway route, because we have seen even the red alert has been issued for Raigad district. So in Raigad, Ratnagiri and Sindhudurg, these 3 districts which come under Konkan region, basically the extra precaution have been taken by the people, and also the certain directives have been issued by the agency, because we have seen recently that how Konkan railway, basically the long route trains have caused a lot of disturbance because of soil spilling, and also mini landslide, you can say. Also waterlogging at some stations, particularly, that caused a lot of convenience. 5 trains have been cancelled a days back, and now 4 trains currently have been cancelled. Some trains, many trains in fact, have been rerouted and slot terminated. However, the works are underway as of now. Also, the trains are moving in a very slow speed. So on Konkan railway, basically, a lot of convenience is being reported from that side. Apart from that, coming to western pockets of Maharashtra like Kolhapur, Satara, Pune, these are the districts which are currently on orange alert, including Mumbai, Thane, Palghar. So currently the situation is normal. There is no untoward incident as of reported as of now. But yes, the agencies are on their toes. They are just keeping a close watch on all the developments around the corridor in Maharashtra.
All right. Also, Yogesh, any precautions or safety measures announced by the authorities there?
Yeah, very pertinent question. In fact, yesterday Mumbai police had posted on X, on Twitter, earlier known as Twitter, that the people should not come out of their residence or their working place until and unless that is very necessary because of the IMD, IMD's warning. So the Mumbai police, and apart from that, also the concerning authorities like in different districts like in Satara, Pune, Kolhapur. These are the area, basically Sangli, where the Krishna River is basically the water of that river is just going to the low-lying areas, causing difficulties to the people, shopkeepers, daily movers. So the certain instructions have also been issued, particularly Sindhudurg and Ratnagiri district, which is basically coastal region. The fishermen, basically, they have been warned, they have been advised not to venture into sea on and off because of the situation prevailing and expected high tide in those areas. Yes.
All right, Yogesh, thank you so much for all that update from Mumbai itself. And moving on, the 10th edition of Vibrant India, India's largest houseware and home appliances trade fair, is slated to be held from July 19th to July 21st at Yashobhoomi Dwarka in India's capital, Delhi. The fair will be an ideal platform for exploring new ideas and innovative products to further the Make in India initiative. And India's Health Minister JP Nadda on Monday reviewed various initiatives taken up by the Food Safety and Standard Authorities of India. In his address, he underscored the critical need of empowering consumers with evidence-based information on food safety issues. And India's Ministry of Law and Justice organized a motivational talk session in Delhi on the topic Happiness, a State of Human Values. Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal, along with the noted author and motivational speaker Nanditesh Nilay, addressed the event. And let's take a look now at other stories making news today. Ahead of the presentation of Union Budget 2024 on July 23rd, the Finance Ministry is all set to hold the traditional Halwa ceremony at North Block. The tradition is part of the budget preparation and holds a great significance. There is a lot of anticipation among key stakeholders around major policy changes in the upcoming budget. The 16th edition of the India-Mongolia Joint Military Exercise Nomadic Elephant to conclude in Meghalaya on Tuesday. The two-week training event aimed at enhancing interoperability between the two nations' armies in semi-conventional operations within semi-urban and mountainous terrains under UN mandate. At least 4 people were killed and several others were injured after a bus they were travelling in collided with a tractor and plunged into a ditch near the Mumbai Express Highway. According to officials, all the injured were admitted to a nearby hospital. The bus carrying devotees was en route from Kesar village in Dombivli to Pandharpur in Maharashtra when the accident took place. The 19th batch of 4,132 pilgrims left for the Kashmir Valley in North India's Jammu and Kashmir to pay obeisance at the holy cave shrine of Amarnath. Over 300,000 pilgrims have already visited the holy shrine so far. And it is another first for India as it hosts the 46th session of the World Heritage Committee. Prior to that event, the 10-day event also plays host to the World Heritage Young Professionals Forum from 14th to 23rd of July. 50 young professional minds from around the world, which includes 20 from India, deliberate to find solutions for World Heritage in the 21st century. More in this report. Take a look.
India plays host to the 46th session of the World Heritage Committee in Delhi. As an integral part of it, including the Young Minds, India also hosts the World Heritage Young Professionals Forum 2024 under the theme of World Heritage in the 21st century.
Over the next week or so, they will engage in very fruitful and detailed discussions on aspects like sustainable management of heritage sites, climate change and its effect on heritage sites.
The 10-day forum has the right mix of deliberations, visits across World Heritage sites in the national capital and India.
I think this goes very well along with the Honorable Prime Minister's message of Vikas Bhi, Virasat Bhi, which means development along with preservation of our cultural heritage. And India is a cultural superpower.
The forum will enhance the expertise and capacities of young professionals in protecting, preserving and promoting our natural and cultural world heritage.
Nowadays we are facing challenges such as climate change, such as challenges affecting the site. So this is the field of expertise of those participants and what they are expecting to have their voices heard by the international community.
50 young professionals from around the world meet to gain in-depth knowledge of the global concepts of world heritage and sustainable development.
Climate change is real and it is now, and as young people we advocate for more policies, more climate finance to go behind the work and the promises that countries make.
I'm happy to discuss various issues, challenges and opportunity related to World Heritage Convention and World Heritage Management.
I look forward to learning about how India is actually addressing World Heritage sites and what their heritage management plans are.
This presents a great opportunity for the young professionals to familiarize themselves with the local Indian heritage. At the end of the forum, the young professionals will present their declaration to the 46th session of the World Heritage Committee. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. The Spanish men's football team arrived back to a roaring welcome on home soil after their Euro 2024 triumph. Olympic torch relay travels around Paris, visits some of the key landmarks. And Indian star cricketer Virat Kohli wishes good luck to Olympic-bound contingent as they inch closer to the quadrennial showpiece starting July 26th. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuranan. On to some business news now. Wall Street closed higher as increasing expectations of a second Donald Trump presidency. The growing probability that the U.S. Federal Reserve will begin cutting its key interest rate as soon as September also helped feed risk appetite. While all three major U.S. stock indexes ended well below session highs, the Dow Jones Industrial Average notched an all-time closing high and rose by 0.53%, while the Nasdaq by 0.40%. And Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said on Monday the three U.S. inflation readings over the second quarter of this year add somewhat to confidence that the pace of price increases is returning to the Fed's target in a sustainable fashion. Powell also said at the event that he intended to serve out his full term as chair, which ends in early 2026, but declined to comment on whether he would remain as chair if tapped by the next president. His remarks are likely his last until his press conference following the Fed's July 30th, 31st meeting. Consumer prices in the second quarter rose at an annualized pace of 2.1%, excluding the volatile food and energy components, and that index tends to run higher than the Fed's preferred personal consumption expenditures price index. PCT data for June will not be released until next week. And Asian shares fell on Tuesday as investors pondered the prospect of a Trump victory and what that would mean for China. The Shanghai Composite Index fell 0.3%, while Hong Kong Hang Seng Index lost 1.4%. While the dollar climbed for a second day, even though dovish Fed comments fueled bets of more U.S. rate cuts this year. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan fell 0.5%. Japan returned from a public holiday with the Nikkei index up by 0.4%. And more than 100 companies, including Unilever, Eloxten and Iberdrola, have called on governments to enact tougher policies to reach a UN goal on halting nature loss by the end of the decade. With more than 1 million species on the brink of extinction, the world agreed to a landmark deal in 2022 to protect biodiversity, including a pledge to protect 30% of the world's natural ecosystems. You're watching DD India News. Time now for some sports news. After registering an astonishing win at Copa America tournament, Argentina's football team returned to a hero's welcome from fans in the city of Ezeiza late on Monday. People waited for hours and lined the route of buses transporting the players from the airport to the Argentine Football Association compound. Some fans also bid farewell to the player Angel Di Maria after his retirement announcement from the national team. Well, the Spanish men's football team arrived back on home soil on Monday after their Euro 2024 triumph and celebrated by parading through the streets of Madrid in an open-top bus. Luis de la Fuente's side were greeted by tens of thousands of cheering Spaniards as they made their way around the city to the Cibeles to present the trophy. Early on Sunday night, Spain defeated England 2-1 with substitute Mikel Oyarzabal grabbing an 86th minute winner after Nico Williams had opened the scoring just after half-time. La Rosa, they were convincing champions, winning all 7 of their matches on their way to lifting a record-setting 4th European title. Meanwhile, waving flags and dressed in Spain's red and yellow colours, tens of thousands of people greeted the new European champions in Cibeles Square after the open-top bus parade through Madrid. In Madrid's iconic Cibeles Square, fans gathered to celebrate Spain's record-setting fourth European championship, with the players leading the crowd in victory chants from the stage. Well, the Olympic torch relay travelled around Paris on Monday, visiting some of the key landmarks, including the Champs-Élysées, Arc de Triomphe, Moulin Rouge and Roland Garros. The Olympic flame arrived in Paris on Sunday after almost 2 months of zigzagging through France and French overseas territories. The relay will culminate with the lighting of the cauldron in Paris during the opening ceremonies of the Paris Games. Paris Olympics 2024 right on the edge and set to be held from July 26th to the August 11th. And ahead of the upcoming Paris Olympics 2024, Indian star cricketer Virat Kohli has urged the nation to get behind its Olympic-bound contingent, asking the fans to join him in supporting the athletes as they inch closer to the podium with dogged determination in the quadrennial showpiece starting July 26th. In a video post on X featuring some Paris-bound athletes like javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra and boxing hope Nishan Dev, Kohli said it is time for India to be recognized as a global sporting powerhouse.
India, Bharat, Hindustan. There was a time when the world could only think of India as a land of snake charmers and elephants. Over time, that has changed. Today we are known to the world as the largest democracy, a global tech hub. We're known for cricket, for Bollywood, for startup unicorns, and as the fastest growing economy in the world. So what is the next big thing for this great nation? Well, that'll be more gold, more silver, and more bronze. Our brothers and sisters are headed to Paris, hungry for medals. 1 billion of us will be watching them, nervous and excited, as our athletes set foot in the tracks and fields and courts and rings. Every neighborhood, every corner of India will hear a chorus of voices chanting, India, India, India. Join me in remembering their faces as they inch closer to the podium with the dogged determination of waving the Tiranga with pride.
All right, Disneyland Paris broke a world record using over 1,500 drones and Mickey Mouse's image in the night sky. The sky shows made a Guinness Book World Record for the largest aerial display of a fictional character formed by drones. So hundreds of drones create a giant tricolor Mickey Mouse head over Sleeping Beauty Castle at the theme park resort. Take a look. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lifakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.